I am now creating weekly exclusive content for Patreon, so if you are interested in that, go check out the link down below. And of course, if you want to avoid the random lottery of FIFA points, you want to go straight to the source, buy the players directly, use u7buy.com and use the code TVM at checkout. What is going on, guys? TVM here. Welcome back to yet another FIFA 21 rating predictions. I'm going to do these periodically if there isn't any content to do a review on or anything like that, or I'm at a loose end or I'm waiting for something to come out, etc. We did Bayern Munich a couple of days ago. I'm going to go through the majority of the Bundesliga first before I do anything else to allow the other leagues to sort of wrap up a little bit. So today, of course, you can tell by the title and the thumbnail and the picture on screen right now, it is Leipzig. There aren't too many big names to sort of speak of here because one of them's already transferred away. We have a 18-year-old youth academy player who is rated quite highly. He's in the game at the moment, 61 rated, but I've just bumped him up to 67. I don't know an awful lot about what he's good at, whether it be passing, defending, so on and so forth, so I've just sort of bumped him up from what the bronze card was. Wolf is another player who has come back from a fractured leg injury, hasn't really done particularly well since coming back, so may end up getting downgraded from a 74 to a 73. I mean, again, take that with a pinch of salt. They might decide to leave him at 74. I'm sure either way he will go on to become a gold at some point. Moving on to the starting 11, or the main sort of hub of the squad then, really, and that's the goalkeeper in Gulakshi. From an 85 to an 86, I would say he's aging, but for a goalkeeper, 30 years of age isn't actually too bad. He's probably got a good sort of 6 years left in him, maybe even more than that. So 6.97, 10 clean sheets, got a team of the season. I can definitely see him getting upgraded by 1 to an 86. Angelino is a card, or rather a player, because they are players, they're not just items in a video game. He's on loan from Man City, so I don't know if he'll stay. So this is, again, another one of those, take it with a pinch of salt, because I don't know whether he will remain at the club. But if they decide to buy him permanently, bring him in, I've bumped him to an 80. I think he's done quite well in terms of adapting to the league and such. Willy Orban, I've downgraded his pace, but I've kept him as an 81. He's played relatively well when he's been given games this season, because obviously he was injured. Again, a lot of injuries dotted around the place. I played a 7.07, which I think is more or less on par with Angelino. 12 games played, I believe, this season, which again isn't particularly good sample size, but we'll just downgrade his pace because EA. UPAMECANO, one of the players with the highest upgrades, from a 77 to an 81, 7.12 match rating, obviously a key part of Leipzig's season. He is injury prone, but I think he, again, deserves a big upgrade. He's one of those players that may actually not be there by the start of the season, because there are plenty of clubs sniffing around, Chelsea being one of them. Wouldn't be surprised if they came back in for someone else. Let's move on to another defender, Konate. He he's just, again, been out through injury. He just hasn't really featured an awful lot. I've not downgraded him. I've not upgraded him. You've got to wonder, what team have Leipzig been playing? Every card we come to, they've been out through injury for some period of time, which is an interesting one, but we'll keep them the same. SABITZER, 83 rated, up from an 81. I believe he was an 83 in FIFA, was it FIFA 19? FIFA 18? He was an 83, had a really good card then. He's got 16 goal contributions this season. Emil Forsberg was a player that had a lot of goal contributions and in particular assists last season. SABITZER basically has taken over from him this year, playing a 7.24, and he's essentially been, with him and Timo Werner, of course, have been the hub of Leipzig. Let's move on to HAIDARA. I think he came over from Salzburg. He's been mainly used as a sub. He hasn't had too much game time, 6.68 match rating. I wouldn't be surprised to see him a lot more in the Leipzig team next season, in particular with the sheer number of players that have either left the club or are on loan and about to leave the club. Obviously, they can make transfers, but you know what I mean. Yusuf Poulsen, unfortunately, hasn't been able to capitalise on the form that he showed last season. He played very, very well last season and then didn't hit the ground running at all, and kind of just went back into his shell. He started at the start of the season quite consistently, and then Patrick Schick took over from him because he just wasn't playing particularly well. And as a result, I've downgraded him by 1. Only 5 goal contributions in 22 games. Emil Forsberg, as I say, last season was Leipzig's top goal contributor. getting quite a lot of assists, but this season he's only managed 7 goal contributions. He has been playing a fair bit in recent weeks as well. They've been using him a lot in their rotation, but he just hasn't been himself, really. Let's move on to Adams, a player that you could argue deserved to be downgraded to a 75. I've kept him as a 76 just in the interest of fairness. 6.79 match rating, but again, he's been injured. But when he has managed to play, he hasn't really shown any sort of great signs of improvement. So we'll see. KLOSTERMANN, he is up from a 79. 7 match rating, very consistent player. Him and the left back, who we'll get to, of course, HALSTENBERG, they are both very, very consistent, and you can always rely on them for Leipzig. Those two in defence are just, like I said, very, very consistent. Them and UPAMECANO as well. It's interesting that the defence is the ones are the ones that get upgraded. Christopher Nkunku up next, a player that I really like, and I've upgraded him from a 77 to an 82. I would not be against upgrading him to an 83, but that's just me. He is a box-to-box midfielder, but more so this season than any other, he's really shown his attacking prowess. He's got 18 goal contributions. PSG let him go for 13 million last summer, which in the grand scheme of things now is nothing. You would pay 50, 60 million at least for Nkunku. So good deal there. Hopefully he gets a nice card. Patrick Schick, he is on loan from Roma, so who knows whether he'll stay. Of course, they do need someone to replace Timo Werner. I wouldn't say that Schick is the direct replacement. I've upgraded him from a 76 to an 80 because 10 goals and 2 assists, and not done too badly considering he hasn't really had that much game time. Like I said, he did replace POULSEN as the sort of main second striker to Timo Werner, and he's done quite well. On to Mukiele, a player who has actually played right back and right wing back this season. I think he is primarily a centre back, of course. He is in there with UPAMECANO, and then we have HALSTENBERG and KLOSTERMANN either side. But he has played a right wing back, so don't know. EA do really weird things, you never know. He's played quite well. I think a slight upgrade from a 77 to a 78 or a 79 is justified. HALSTENBERG then, we've talked about him a fair few times already this video. Up from an 80 to an 81, 6 goal contributions, very solid, very, very reliable, and just a consistent player, very much like KLOSTERMANN on the other side. So can definitely see him getting upgraded slightly. Still not a great looking card for FIFA, but yeah, it is what it is. Mvogo, just a very quick note on him. Of course, he is the second choice goalkeeper. You could argue that you could downgrade him to a 75. Just going to keep him the way that he is. Hasn't really had, I think he's had 1 game and he conceded twice. So I can't, just it is what it is. Let's move on to DANI OLMO, who, bar SABITZER, is probably the big name now in Leipzig, of course, because Werner is gone. DANI OLMO made the move in the summer. 6.90 match rating. Hasn't overly impressed, but he is starting to turn the cogs a little bit. He didn't feature against Dortmund until SABITZER went off injured. Then he came on, didn't play particularly well, but he didn't play bad either. So I can see a little upgrade there. Konrad Laimer, a player very much like Nkunku, who I really do like in real life, and I would not be against him being sort of 82, 83 rated, but I just don't see EA bumping him up that highly. Up from a 77 to a 79. 6.86 match rating, but he is a very, very consistent player. He has a couple of goal contributions this season, but he is primarily a sort of holding midfield player, but he's very good at doing that as well. He is a very, very good player, young talent as well. Let's move on to our final player, and it is, of course, Kevin KAMPL. 9 games out through injury this season, so he hasn't been too consistent in terms of the amount of games played, but 7.26 match rating. He has played well when he's been given a chance. He's got a fair few goal contributions as well, to be fair to him, so I'm going to keep him as an 83 and rather than not downgrade or upgrade. That will bring us to the end of the Leipzig rating predictions. There aren't too many players there that actually play for Leipzig. A lot of them are on loan. Didn't include Timo Werner because, of course, he's signed for Chelsea. And there are a couple of other players in there that I've left out as well. Again, because they are obviously going to go back to their respective clubs. And Pardew will almost certainly go back to Chelsea. Who else was in here? I think Angelino will probably go back to Manchester City as well. And there are a couple of other cards, or rather players, like Lookman, for example. He's definitely going to go back to Everton. But it's going to be an interesting one. Leipzig are third in the league. They need to sign players if they are going to compete next season, because that squad, the way that it is, looks a little bit thin on the ground. Let me know what team in the Bundesliga you'd like me to do next. If I've got any of the ratings right or wrong, again, feel free to debate. If you have enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for new, and until the next time, goodbye.
Football Index. The game changed. Download the app now.